WhatsApp new. The archivist is speaking in English.
Okay, we have a translator both languages, but we want to see you closely. So the camera, we want to see the face. You are very, we want to see the face, okay? So try to come closer to the camera.
Maybe he can take his mask off.
Yes.
Nathaniel, see the square
Okay,
underneath?
Peter, now it's much better. We see you much better now. Much better. טליה, מה איתך?
אנחנו שוב חזרנו לטלפון, אני
בסדר?
לא מבקש פתאום enter meeting ID או personal.
לא, את איתנו, עזבי enter, את איתנו, אנחנו רואים אותך, רק תני לאמא לדבר רגע.
כן, אתה עכשיו איתי בטלפון.
בסדר, אני שומע אותך ורואה אותך. תביא לי את המסך לאמא. זהו, ועכשיו שאמא תדבר משפט.
תגידי.
סוזי, מה שלומך? How are you?
תגידי שלום.
שלום.
אוקיי, מצוין, מעולה.
אבל זה זז כל הזמן.
זה סלופון, זה what can we do? תנסו רק שזה יהיה יציב, שזה לא יזוז כל הזמן.
כן, השאלה אם עוד יש זמן לנסות להתחבר דרך המחשב, כי זה עדיף.
יש זמן, יש עוד 5-7 דקות, יש לזה.
אז אני שואלת אותך, מה פתאום הוא רוצה מאיתנו?
מה, המחשב רוצה...
את צריכה להוריד את הזום, היא צריכה להוריד זום במחשב.
קודם הצלחנו, ועכשיו הוא רוצה, רגע. הנה, join meeting, and הוא אומר, enter meeting ID or personal link name, מה זה? זה לא היה קודם, הוא לא ביקש את זה.
תראי, בואי נשאר עם הפלאפון, זה בסדר, רק תנסו שהוא לא יזוז, ובואי נשאר עם הפלאפון.
אבל לאמא שלי זה עדיף. אם אתה יכול להנחות אותי, אז אתה יודע מה להגיד לי לעשות?
קיבלת בלינק יש פרטים, אני אנסה למצוא את זה על הטלפון שלי, שם יש לך את המספרים. רגע, אני אנסה למצוא.
Okay, we do want to ask everyone to open the cameras, okay, to give honor to this ceremony. So anyone who can, please open your cameras. Hello, Leslie. Hello, Leslie.
Nathaniel. The squares on the first line to the right, there's nothing there. Do you see that?
It's a lamp or
what?
There's a lamp and then there's a ceiling.
It's James. It's James Strauss. He will be there in a minute.
I'm here. What?
Okay, James, I want to show you for a minute the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Just for a minute, okay?
You are unable to...
This is the pictures, okay?
Oh, how nice.
This is your part, these two slides.
Yes. My father younger and my father before he died in the 1950s.
נתנאל, אנחנו לא מצליחים להיכנס בגללך.
Wedding picture.
אתה לא אפשרת לנו להיכנס דרך המחשב, תבטל את החסימה הזאת.
אני לא שמתי לה חסימה, אני לא יודע.
You are unable to rejoin this meeting because you were provisionally removed by the host.
הבנתי, אז אני לא יודע איך, רגע, אבל איך אני מבטל את זה עכשיו? אין לי מושג. רגע, רק שנייה, אני אנסה לבטל את זה בפרטיסיפנטס, רק שנייה, אני אנסה רגע. איך אתם נקראים?
שנה לוי קמפוס.
רגע.
Are you on?
רגע, אני אנסה לראות אם אני רואה את זה.
Okay.
אתה הורדת אותנו מהאפשרות של המחשב.
כן, הבנתי, אני לא יודע, אבל... אני מחפש רגע איפה זה... אני לא יודע אם אני אספיק עד זה...
אם תספיק, אם לא, אני פה עם הטלפון, אל דאגה.
נעשה את זה עם הטלפון, נראה לי, אני לא...
לא, אבל לאמא שלי זה עדיף, כי היא לא רואה את האנשים.
הבנתי. תני לי רגע לראות. תראה, אתם לא רשומות בפרטיסיפנטס, אז אני לא יודע להגיד.
אבל אתה הורדת אותנו, אז היינו רשומים.
נכון, אבל איך אני עכשיו מחזיר אתכם? לא יודע איפה אתם רשומות. תנסי רגע לצאת ולהיכנס עוד פעם. בסדר? תנסי.
מהמחשב או מהטלפון?
כן, לצאת לגמרי מהמחשב, ואז להיכנס עוד פעם.
זה מה שעשיתי, וזה מה שהוא אמר לי. אני אעשה עוד פעם. רגע. הנה, אני עכשיו נכנסת מחדש,
אוקיי.
ואומרים לי...
Well, he just put up some pictures of Jimmy's, and there was a picture of his father.
Johannes, I made you co-host so you can record on your computer, okay?
Okay. Hey, guys.
People, please open your cameras, okay? Everyone, open your cameras. We want to see the faces. We want to see people, not just black screens. Welcome, everyone. We'll start in a few minutes. We're going to have an English translation and German translation. We will explain about it.
אנחנו לא מצליחים, וזה כנראה בגלל משהו שעשית.
זהו, אני כרגע לא אצליח לשנות את זה, טליה, אני מצטער.
You want to say hi?
Hi, Jim.
Hello, Stu, how are you?
Hi, Netanel. Nice to see you. Thank you for doing this. Hi.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure. Also. Yeah.
It was the birthday of Stu's mother, your Aunt Eva.
Today? Today?
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
I talked to her.
By the way, everybody, there's a wonderful movie called The Song of Names. If you haven't seen it, it has something to do with why we're here today.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, welcome people. We're going to start in a few minutes. We're going to have a German-English translation to this special ceremony. And we will explain about it in a few, it's around 5 o'clock. Please open your screens. We want to see faces. It's not passive participation. It's an active participation here.
מה זה פרסונל?
Good morning, Emmy.
It's with you is morning, there is afternoon.
I know. Emmy, it worked. I can't hear you.
I saw your mail. It worked.
I'm so happy.
Johannes, you record on your computer? Yes.
Is that your brother? I mean, your uncle?
Netanel, you have to make me a host.
I made you, I made you already, but I'll make you another time, okay.
Yuval.
Hi, Shula.
מה שלומך?
Baruch Hashem, thank you.
חג שמח.
But I don't see him.
Okay, I'm sitting on
I
our
made you a co-host now.
Okay.
מה אמרת?
I'm sitting on our new house on our porch.
Where is your new house?
Near Bet Shemesh, between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
Okay, Rothschild family, you'll have another option to meet. Now it's a group meeting of Gunzenhausen. So all the private things you can read, you can write in chat. Just a minute.
יש, כתוב לי עכשיו meeting password. יש לך איזה password לתת לי?
לא, טליה, אני לא פנוי להתעסק בזה. נעשה את זה עם הפלאפון, וזה מה שיש כרגע. בסדר?
חבל.
אני מצטער, היה רעש Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Hello, everyone. We just are going to start.
Hello.
Before we start
From all over the world.
This special ceremony, I want to say a few technical things.
נתנאל, תגיד להם גם לכבות את to mute themselves, כי אחרת אני לא יכולה לעבוד.
נכון. טליה, אני עושה לך מיוט, וכשאמא תדבר אני אפתח לך את המיוט, בסדר? או שאת תפתחי. Okay, so welcome everybody to this very special ceremony. Please open your cameras and be on mute.
No, you're not launching anything.
Okay, everyone make sure you're on mute so we don't have any noise. We are going to have a German translation. Wow. We're going to have a German-English translation. I want to introduce you to Antea, our translator, from German to English and from English to German.
Hello, nice to
for the
meet you.
translation, if you want to listen in German, you have to press the button interpretation down on the screen, and then you're going to have a German. Just a minute, I'll just write her name. So Antea is our interpreter. So if you want to press the German translation, you will hear all the ceremony in German. And when the German people will speak in German, we will have it in English. So any English speakers will press the button down and press the English, okay? Now, someone can explain that in German?
I will. Okay, also für diejenigen, die der deutschen Verdolmetschung zuhören, hören Sie mich jetzt? Ja, nicht? Ich bin die Dolmetscherin, mein Name ist Antje Eiger und Sie werden gleich die Verdolmetschung über den Dolmetschkanal hören. Unten auf dem Pass, dem Streifen an Ihrem Computer haben Sie eine Weltkugel. Die müssen Sie anklicken und dann haben Sie die Option, entweder Deutsch oder Englisch zu wählen und dann wählen Sie Deutsch, wenn Englisch gesprochen wird. Das war es eigentlich. Okay, und sonst stumm stellen, damit ich gut hören kann. Okay, now I'm going to the channel. Okay.
Okay. So again, everyone, welcome to this special ceremony for the program that happened in Gunzenhausen 87 years ago. We have a very special guest here that she will speak in a few minutes, but she is a live testimony of what happened. And we'll hear her in a few minutes, Mrs. Susie Shoshana Levy from Jerusalem. And this will be very special. I want to thank the Council of Gunzenhausen, the mayor and the second mayor, that really cooperated in organizing this special event. My name is Netanel Yichieli. I live not far from Jerusalem in Israel. And my grandmother, Hannah Rothschild, was born and raised in Gunzenhausen. Her father, Karl Rothschild, was one of the physicians, doctors, that lived in Bahnstrasse 35 in Gunzenhausen, and I'm very happy or feel a lot of responsibility about this ceremony. I would like to invite James Strauss from New York
going on right now.
to light a memorial candle.
Okay, I will do that.
And then we get on. Okay, James, please. Okay, so this candle is for the two Jews that were killed, murdered in this cruel pogrom 87 years ago. And we light a candle because it symbolizes the soul. The soul is eternal, is forever. The body can be murdered, but the soul cannot be murdered. And I think this event also symbolizes this concept of this idea. I would like to invite Mr. Peter Schnell, the second mayor of Gunzenhausen, to read a poem in German. In the meantime, we will have the English translation. Just a minute, Peter. Okay, this is the English translation of the poem. Mrs. Peter Schnell, please. Peter?
נתנאל, תעשה תצוגה, תשנה את התצוגה, שלא יראו בצד.
Mrs. Peter, can you join us?
בוא תשב, תראה את זה.
Wenn es dundelt nach Deutschland. Schreibt es und tritt vor das Haus und es blitzen die Sterne.
עכשיו מישהו קורא שיר.
Greift seine Juden hervor, lässt schaufeln ein Grab in der Erde. Er befiehlt uns, spielt auf nun zum Tanz. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts. Wir trinken dich morgens und mittags.
נתנאל, תשנה את התצוגה לתצוגה.
Peter, we don't hear you very good. Can you try to make your voice better or your microphone?
Ja,
Better now?
Peter, can we hear you?
Alex, ich bin doch dort drin.
Okay.
Yeah, now speak. We want to hear you.
Okay. Okay. Ein Moment. So. Better now?
Yeah, better. Just speak loudly so we can hear you.
Okay, from the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning.
Okay.
Peter, please speak.
Okay, I begin. Paul Celan, Todesfuge. Schwarze Milch der Frühe. Wir trinken sie abends, wir trinken sie mittags und morgens, wir trinken sie nachts, wir trinken und trinken. Wir schaufeln ein Grab in den Lüften, da liegt man nicht eng. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, der spielt mit den Schlangen. Der schreibt, wenn es dunkelt, nach Deutschland. Ein goldenes Haar, Margarete. Er schreibt es und tritt vor das Haus und es blitzen die Sterne. Er pfeift seine Rüden herbei. Er pfeift seine Juden hervor, lässt schaufeln ein Grab in der Erde. Er befiehlt uns, spielt auf nun zum Tanz. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts. Wir trinken dich morgens und mittags. Wir trinken dich abends. Wir trinken und trinken. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, der spielt mit den Schlangen. Der schreibt, wenn es dunkelt, nach Deutschland. Ein goldenes Haar, Margarete. Ein aschenes Haar, Sulamit. Wir schaufeln ein Grab in den Lüften, da liegt man nicht eng. Er ruft, stecht
Jetzt höre ich was.
hier einen.
Gut, ich bedanke mich.
Er greift nach den Meißen im Gurt. Er schwingt's. Seine Augen sind blau. Stecht tiefer die Spaten, ihr einen. Ihr anderen spielt weiter zum Tanz auf. Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts. Wir trinken dich mittags und morgens, wir trinken dich abends, wir trinken und trinken. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus. Ein goldenes Haar, Margarete. Ein aschenes Haar, Sulamit. Er spielt mit den Schlangen. Er ruft, spielt süßer den Tod. Der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Er ruft, streicht dunkler die Geigen. Dann steigt ihr als Rauch in die Luft. Dann habt ihr ein Grab in den Wolken. Da liegt man nicht eng. Schwarze Milch der Frühe. Wir trinken dich nachts, wir trinken dich mittags. Der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Wir trinken dich abends und morgens, wir trinken und trinken. Der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland, sein Auge ist blau. Er trifft dich mit bleierner Kugel, er trifft dich genau. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, ein goldenes Haar, Margarete. Er hetzt seine Rüden auf uns, er schenkt uns ein Grab in der Luft, er spielt mit den Schlangen und träumet. Der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Ein goldenes Haar, Margarete, ein aschenes Haar, Sulamit.
Thank you very much, Second Mayor, Mr. Peter Schnell. And now I want to invite the mayor of the town, Mr. Karl-Heinz Fitz, to say a few words for this special ceremony. Town Mayor, please.
Ich begrüße Sie ganz herzlich aus Gunzenhausen
zu dieser besonderen Gedenkveranstaltung. Besonders deshalb,
ceremony from Gunzenhausen. We are in lockdown due to Corona, and we need this digital platform. But we think of the 25th of March, 1934, with people from Israel, from Germany, the United States of America, and we designed this commemoration event. And thank you from my side, on my behalf, first and foremost to Nathanael, who has prepared this group meeting during the last months. And thank you to Peter Schnell, my vice mayor here in Gunzenhausen, and all the the others who will accompany this ceremony, Mr. Mühlhäuser and others with music. Thank you also to all the others who have joined us and show their interest in this event, their interest in commemoration and remembrance of the event, and the interest to shape future in common respect and understanding, mutual understanding, and that we can use this platform today to do so. There's somebody who has not muted his microphone, and it's...
Okay. So thank you very much, the mayor. We really appreciate your positive attitude to all our projects, and we work really in cooperation. And now I want to invite a very special guest for all of us, Mrs. Shoshana Levy Reader from Jerusalem, Israel. שושנה, רגע, טליה, את מצליחה לפתוח את המיקרופון?
כן, כן. שומעים אותנו?
Okay, Shoshana is a life testimony, okay? She was 8 years old at the time of the pogrom, and we want to hear you, Shoshana. Come on.
תגיד לי, איזה שפה אתה
אנגלית,
רוצה?
תדברי באנגלית וגם במשפט בגרמנית.
אני יודעת גרמנית, עברית, אנגלית.
תדברי באנגלית עכשיו.
כן, אני הבנתי באנגלית.
מצוין.
אוקיי. אתה יודע, זה סוסן ריטר. טוב. אז אני אגיד. My name is Susan Reader, לוי קמפוס. הייתי נשואה ללוי קמפוס. One night, the most hateful of the people in Gunzenhausen went from house to house of Jewish people and took out the Jewish men, killed a few of them when they came to our house, and the house of my grandfather, Joseph Seeberger. They shouted, "Don't go into Joseph Seeberger's house. He is a good man." My grandfather and my father had already put on their coats ready for being taken into prison. Our neighbor in Burgstallstraße had already been killed. Next morning, I was happy to see my father at home, but suddenly somebody knocked at our door. It was our Jewish teacher who was still alive. He said, my father must come out to help bury those who were killed. Last night, my father said, it is very dangerous, but he will come to help him. I started to cry and was sure I won't see him anymore. I was about 10 years old. My father and many Jewish families what is this, tried their best to try to live their to leave Gunzenhausen. When I was 12 years old, at last we got the certificate to leave Gunzenhausen for Palestine, but were not allowed to take out a penny from Germany. I am now 95 years old.
זהו, היא סיימה.
Okay. It's unbelievable, you know, these moments to share, to listen from you. We all wish you a lot of years until at least 120. And we are so proud you are part of us in this special ceremony and to give us a live testimony from the program 87 years ago. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Thank you very much, Shoshana. We wish you all health and a lot of years. I want to invite now Mr. Werner Mulfoner from the city archivist to tell us some report about the event. And just to remind you that you have interpretation down on the screen. So any language, if it's German, you can listen to English. And if it's English, you can listen to German. So you have the button interpretation, you just choose the language. And Mr. Werner, please get in and open your microphone, and we want to hear you. Okay.
For and during the calamitous years of National Socialist rule, it was common practice to erect signs with anti-Semitic diatribes in communities.
We hear you, Werner. Come on.
Nein, ich spreche auf Englisch.
You can speak either in German or in English. Just choose which language.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you. Just continue. Go on.
Okay.
Why don't you continue, Mr. Werner?
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you. Just talk.
Okay. By the hundreds, these plagues characterize the streetscape of German towns, including Gunzenhausen. For example, there was a wooden monument here on Nuremberg Street with a rhyming slogan urging Jews not to come to our town. But the climax of the moral perversion represented another board, which was set up at the northern entrance to the town. Everyone who came to Gunzenhausen had to pass the board, which read: Kein Rosenau und Rosenfeld, in dieser Stadt uns mehr gefällt. In English means, no Rosenau and Rosenfeld, in this city we like more. What makes this sign stand out from the crowd of similar signs in a frightening way is the fact that it is a direct posthumous mockery of two people who died violently. It was a 64-year-old merchant, Max Rosenau, living in the house of Burgstallstraße 7, and the 30-year-old Jakob Rosenfelder, confectioner at Bahnhofstraße 12, who were the first victims of the National Socialist racial mania in Gunzenhausen on March 25, 1934, exactly 87 years ago today. The brutal events on March 25, 1934 led to the fact that this day has caused a sad notoriety of our town under the name Bloody Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday has always been a very special Sunday for the people of Gunzenhausen. Traditionally, the local Protestant youth celebrates their confirmation on this Sunday. This was also the case 87 years ago. The confirmation exams and confessions took place on the 2 previous days. On the actual Sunday of the celebrations, 84 young people gathered in the kindergarten on Büringer Straße and, led by the trombone choir, marched solemnly into the decorated town church and received Holy Communion for the first time. Afterwards, the families celebrated privately at home until they gathered again for another service at 2 p.m. in the town church. According to a press release in the Altmühlbote, the Protestant congregation participated in a large numbers in this service. The Catholic Christians of Gunzenhausen also solemnly celebrated Palm Sunday on March 25, 1934, with an early Mass, Palm consecration and parish service, and an afternoon Stations of the Cross. That is why it is all the more inexplicable for us today that on this so Christian festival and holiday, only a few hours after the services, up to 1,500 hateful people marched through the streets of Gunzenhausen to hunt down Jews. 1,500 Gunzenhäuser. That is 28% of the total population at the time, which was about 5,500 inhabitants, of which about 180 were Jewish men, women, and children. There must have been an explosive mood, indeed physically almost palpable tension in the air on that March Sunday in 1934. Already at noon, the Jewish Sigmund Rosenfelder was mobbed and intimidated by SR people with the words, "Shut up, we are taking a course, we will drink schnapps and learn how to hang Jews." Sigmund Rosenfelder and his daughter felt alarmed by this so greatest extent and actually expected something to happen in the course of the day. Late Sunday afternoon at about 5 p.m., the 20-year-old SA Obersturmbannführer Kurt Beer chaired a meeting with several other SA leaders at the Hotel Post. Afterwards, Bear and his companions walked past the inn of the Jew Simon Strauss, Nürnberger Straße 4, on their way to the Gasthaus Krone. They entered the restaurant discovered the former mayor of Gunzenhausen, Leonhard Baumgärtner, slapped him in the face and drove him out of the restaurant because he drank his beer at the juice. After this incident, the SR people first went on to the Krone Inn, where they remained until about 7:30 p.m. Later, they returned to the Strauss. There, Kurt Bear begged Simon Strauss and his wife Sophie, threatened the couple with a pistol, and fired shots into the wall. Meanwhile, in the hallway, SR man begged Julius Strauss, the 27-year-old son of the innkeeper, until he was unconscious, then demolished the inn's furnishings, and finally took the Strauss family to prison. On the way there, a little more than 100 meters from the Strauss Inn, the still unconscious Julius Strauss and his mother were subjected to further physical abuse by SR men, incited by curious people who had joined them in the meantime, and their shouts of "Hit it! Hit it!" In no time at all, many onlookers gathered in front of the Strauss Inn to listen to a diatribe by Kurt Bear. He and another 23 SR men then led groups of between 50 and several hundred Gunzenhäuser and marched through the city street at night. In front of the Jewish properties, they bawled, "The Jews must go out," forcibly gained on entry into the houses, dragged 35 Jewish residents, some of them in their nightgowns, out into the open, abused them, and dragged the humiliated and frightened into prison as well. The rampage of the fanatical Gunzenhäuser lasted until about 11 p.m. One of the first houses to be stormed was a property at Bahnhofstraße 12. In the immediate vicinity of the Strauss Inn, Jakob Rosenfelder lived there with his sister Fanny. Rosenfelder, a Jew and also a political opponent of the National Socialists, as a member of the Reichsbanner Schwarz-Rot-Gold, had long been a thorn in the side of the Gunzenhausen Nazis. Already in 1933, he had been thrown into prison for 10 weeks. When the pogrom broke out, he was also sitting in Strauss Inn and received several blows. He was brought home bleeding. A little later, he observed from there how the inflamed crowd approached his house and fled with a jump from the second floor. His body was found hanging from a pole in the shed of the property at Bahnhofstraße 16. Conjectures about suicide or murder were already hotly debated at that time. Fanny Rosenfelder stated on the record that she did not believe her brother had taken his own life. He had been full of life and without worries. Various inconsistencies during the investigation of the events surrounding the discovery of the body speak for an act of violence spurred at third party. The expert opinion of a renowned forensic pathologist in 2005 also tends in the direction of murder. The second fatality of that night lived at Burgstraße 7, where the mob gathered around 10:15 p.m. Filled with panic, the single house owner, Max Rosenau, fled to the second floor to his tenants, the Lehmann family. In utmost desperation and mortal fear of the approaching rioting people in his house, Max Rosenau thrust a long knife 5 times into his chest, including a stab to the heart area. Immediately afterwards, 6 to 8 people forced their way into the living room, and the dying Rosenau called out to them with his last ounce of strange, "I'm already dead. You don't have to do anything to me anymore." The Gunzenhausen incidents caused a considerable stir. As early as March 28, the city council had to report directly to the Reich Ministry for Popular Enlightenment and Propaganda in Berlin, whose head was the notorious Joseph Goebbels. Reports of the pogrom in the small Franconian town of Gunzenhausen went all over the world through news services and generated an international wave of indignation. Newspapers in America, Great Britain, or Austria headlined, "2 Jews dead in Nazi attack," or "Jews terrorized in Bavarian town." Franconia's Gauleiter Julius Streicher felt compelled to answer English journalists' questions and blatantly lied that no Jew had been murdered in Gunzenhausen. In stark contrast to this is a reporting in the Altmühlboten, our local newspaper. There, one day after the pogrom, on merely read, Max Rosenau and Jacob Rosenfelder died by suicide. Only one sentence, only 11 words. More information about the shameful goings on a few hours earlier, the persecution of Jewish fellow citizens, the death of 2 innocent people was not worth communicating to the local newspaper. What profound, indelible impressions March 25, 1934 had left on the members of the Jewish religious community of Gunzenhausen is shown by the fact that in the following weeks and months a first large wave of immigration began. Whether Kurt Dottenheimer, wine merchant's son in Burgstraße, Theodor and Erna Klein, a textile merchant couple living in Gerberstraße, the ironmonger Samuel Rosenau and wife Selma from Hensoldstraße, the Rosenfelder banking family from Marktplatz, the siblings Gertrud and Ludwig Leopold Lehmann, who had to witness the drama surrounding Max Rosenau at first hand in their parents' living room. The cafe tenant Bruno Waldmann in Bahnhofstraße and many, many others. They all not longer felt safe in their hometown Gunzenhausen, where they themselves, their parents, grandparents and ancestors had been able to live and work peacefully for years, decades, almost centuries. They fled to Stuttgart, Munich, or other larger cities and hoped to survive the further development of Nazi Germany while there, which, however, should also turn out to be a mistake.
Thank you very much, Mr. Werner Mulhäuser, for the very detailed report on accurately what happened. I'm sure there are also feelings when we all hear this story. We have some different feelings, but this is the work of archivist to give the details, and each one of us have to think or to feel what he's going to do with this story. I want to invite for a music break Mr. Max Faller with his students. So open your camera, please, and we can hear some of your music. Max Faller, are you? Can we hear you? Yeah. Okay. We don't hear the music yet. Thank you very much for this special song or tune. Sometimes tunes and music touches where words cannot touch. Of course, when we're dealing with such a horrible events, the music touches in different places. So thank you very much for this special song or tune. Now I want to invite again the town mayor, Mr. Karl-Heinz Fitz, to say a few more words for this event.
Ja, liebe Teilnehmer, wir haben es gehört, wir haben uns heute auf diese ganz besondere Art und Weise.
We meet in a very special platform, digital way, and 87 days ago on Palm Sunday, this terrible event happened, and it still throws a gloomy shadow into the present and onto Gunzenhausen. This day entered history as Bloody Palm Sunday. It was one of the first pogroms throughout Germany it took place in our city or our town. And Gunzenhausen seems to be a tranquil Franconian town. Nobody thought that this could have been possible. And this was a unique characteristic of our town, something we are truly not proud of. If we take a closer look at our city's history, we see that only at the years after World War I, during the so-called Weimar Republic, that there was an insidious process, successive process, which discriminated against Jewish fellow citizens. They were more and more discriminated against. Please mute your microphone. There were tensions between Christian and Jews in our city. But before that, they were first disrupted in 1919. There were anti-Semitic leaflets and posters that appeared on the streets of Gunzenhausen. And during the 1920s, there were more and more attacks on the synagogue, on the cemetery, and the local religious community in Gunzenhausen. The reason somebody is talking always. I cannot listen to him. Please mute your microphone. The political and social sanctioning of the systematic disenfranchisement, which openly began in Germany when Adolf Hitler and his regime
Deutschland einsetzte, machte sich dann auch in Gunzenhausen bemerkbar. Wir haben es gehört, am 25. März 1934 geschah dann das Unfassbare, als in den späten Abendstunden 1500 Gunzenhäuser durch die Straßen zogen. Nach meinem Kenntnisstand hatte Gunzenhausen damals, ich glaube, 4.000, 5.000 Einwohner.
The mayor, one minute, the mayor.
Bevölkerung, die sich dieser Bewegung angeschlossen hat.
1 minute, the mayor, you hear me? You listen to me?
Okay, and we know it from time witnesses and from neighbors, the Jewish neighbors, and we lived in good coexistence. We worked together and we celebrated together. The Dottenheimers, Gutmanns, Levis, the Levites, Bergmanns, Rothschilds, Waldmanns, Gersts, and all other Jewish families in Gunzenhausen. We had good neighborly relations. And when these people come to Gunzenhausen, they tell their story even now, and it is very moving to hear about it. There was a young SA leader, Kurt Beer, who triggered all of it. And this led to the death of two people, to Max Rosenauer and Jakob Rosenfeld. The death was not in vain. And this is reason that we every year, year by year, we commemorate the 25th of March in a very different manner. We do so by integrating also young people in the commemoration. And I'm very happy that this tragic day, 87 years ago, we can commemorate in a digital manner. It's a day of commemoration, but we also want to look ahead. And I see it during the last year since I am a mayor of the city and involved in the ceremonies. We should also look at the things we have in common which unite us. 2019 We had youth exchange. We started youth exchange programs, and youngsters came to us, and people from Gunzenhausen, they spent time with us and they talked about all kinds of things. In 2020, we intended to visit Israel, but we couldn't do so due to the pandemic. But we hope to do it in the years to come. The youth exchange is dear to my heart, and I want that people get to know others and their way of life and their way of thinking. And we have initiated a dialogue group with actors from all over the world, from Israel, the United States, but also from England. And we started to exchange ourselves and incorporate also the younger generation. I'm very excited to see where this journey will take us. And this dialogue group and all who participate, and I will accompany it. It's dear to my heart. Thank you very much for your interest and to find a common perspective and look into the future. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much to the town mayor. We really feel your positive attitude and we really appreciate that. And what you said about past, present and future, I think we all remember the past, we all live in the present, and we all have to think where to take this energy, these horrible things, to a better future for all of us, to a more humanistic, more respect, and more knowing each other. As I always say, German and Jews will be forever connected. The question is where shall we take this connection to? But what happened makes us connected forever. So thank you very much for the mayor. I want to invite Mr. James Strauss to share some of the memories of his family from New York. James, please.
Thank you. As you have been told by other speakers today, on the 25th of March, 1934, during the early years of Nazi rule in Germany, the most infamous attack against the Jews occurred in the small town of Gunzenhausen. In a recent, well-researched book, the author tells us that this incident is accepted as the beginning of the Nazi Holocaust. On March 25, 1934, Palm Sunday, a group of stormtroopers beat up the Jewish landlords of the Strauss Inn. A few months later, in July 1934, newly emboldened, these same stormtroopers returned to the pub, murdered Simon Strauss, and critically injured Julius Strauss. Simon was my grandfather. Julius was my father. The surviving members of the family, my father, his mother, and sister, were encouraged to leave Germany and found refuge in New York City. My father was 27. He worked hard, built a successful business, married my mother in 1939. She was also a German Jewish refugee. And they had 2 children, my sister Carol and me. My father never fully recovered from the bullet wounds and died on April 20, 1956, my 9th birthday. I had always been curious about the events in Gunzenhausen, but was too young when my father died to have asked him about it. Also, in the 1950s, one didn't talk much about the Holocaust. In 2015, my wife and I found out through the internet that a teacher in Gunzenhausen, Emmy Hetzner, had developed a curriculum for her 14-year-old students based on the history of the Jews of Gunzenhausen. I contacted Emmy, and she invited us to Gunzenhausen. Emmy asked that I tell her students about American Jewry today. Her students then took us on a tour of the previously owned Jewish homes and businesses. There on the steps of the completely intact building that had been the Strauss Inn, these teenagers told us about the 1934 pogrom against the Strauss family and the Jews of the town. As you can imagine, our emotions ran very high. The experience of meeting these young Germans in my father's birthplace started me on a journey of discovery. After World War II, the new German government passed a law allowing those who had been persecuted and denied citizenship during the Nazi era to reclaim German citizenship. After 2.5 years of bureaucratic paperwork, I was able to have my German citizenship restored. I became a German citizen in August 2020, approximately 85 years after the Strauss family fled Gunzenhausen. And if they wish, I will assist my 3 children and 7 grandchildren, as well as my sister's family, to have German citizenship restored. After 87 years, it is gratifying to know that my father and grandfather are remembered in Gunzenhausen. Thank you. Danke schön. Toda rabah.
Thank you very much, James Strauss. First is many thanks to Amy Hetzner, I think, and the other people from Gunzenhausen. All what's happening today, it's all fruit of your work. In the years, there was no internet, or maybe there was internet, but there was no Zoom. So this is all part of what you've done. And the second point is to close circles. We are doing with closing circles that stayed open. And this metaphor or image can take each one to a different place. But we are doing with closing circles. I want to invite my cousin, my mother's cousin, Professor Shula Reinhardt from Boston, to say a few words. Shula, open your microphone.
Thank you to everybody who planned today's event and who spoke or played music or read a poem. It's a beautiful ceremony. I have to say, I recognize many faces here because we have gotten together many times. I'm going to talk about what happened after that pogrom on Bloody Palm Sunday. 4 months later, it was July 1934. My father, whose name is Max Rothschild, left Gunzenhausen right around the time of the pogrom. And he went to Munich, where he had a grandmother. And he went to school there. My grandfather thought that Munich would be safer than Gunzenhausen. Of course, he was wrong. My father left a memoir, a big memoir, and I'm going to read to you what he said about July 1934, 4 months after Bloody Sunday. Everything I say now will be his words. When I returned from Munich to Gunzenhausen on that marvelous express train for my first school vacation on a bright day in July 1934, I found my hometown the same sleepy, backward place I had left a few months earlier. Father, that's his father, had just taken his after-lunch nap, which he always needed badly before going back to his busy office hours as a doctor. Then, all of a sudden, the phone rang, and an excited voice screamed from the other end at father to come quickly to the Jewish inn. My stepmother, Henny, wanted to go with him. She did not want father to go there alone, but we held her back. When father got there, he found a bloody scene. Mr. Strauss, our Jewish innkeeper, had been sitting in the main Bierstube together with his son, dozing away during a drowsy summer afternoon when suddenly the door was flung open and a local SA thug by the name of Bear came running in and fired at random from his service revolver. Most of the shots hit the ceiling, but one pierced the temple of Mr. Strauss Sr., and the other one lodged in the abdomen of the junior Strauss, tearing open his spleen. The older man was rushed to the hospital where he died on the operating table. His son was saved through an emergency operation in which father participated. Our congregation, that is the Jüdische Gemeinde, had just about forgotten the pogrom of the previous year. To me, that's remarkable. This new, totally unexpected crime now cast a shadow upon all of us. I think it was this event which gave father the decisive push to leave Gunzenhausen, alas, not for America or Palestine, but for Munich, which was where my grandmother lived. I attended the Strauss funeral. It was my second funeral within a little over a year following the death of my dear mother. That shooting had a series of bizarre consequences. There was a formal court proceeding against the Nazi thug, who was a blonde, good-for-nothing from a well-known Protestant family. Father was summoned to the court as a witness. When the court spoke to him, it said two things. It said that my grandfather, my father's father, that he had to be quiet. He had to keep silent about what he saw when he entered the tavern after the shooting. And second, he had to swear that he did not know how the injury to the spleen of young Mr. Strauss happened. Forget it. Father had to sign a statement. He didn't know what happened in the inn, and he didn't know how Mr. Strauss had a bullet in his stomach. The young Mr. Strauss was taken out of town as soon as he was able to leave the hospital, and he went to a rest home in the Black Forest. He still had several pieces of metal in his spleen that eventually calcified, calcium came around it. My friend Lou Bergman and I visited him briefly during a bicycle tour a few weeks later. He emigrated to the United States just in time to avoid being sent to a concentration camp. The SA man, Bear, was officially sentenced to several months in jail for disturbing the peace, and that was that. But it so happened that one day, a month later, I was walking with some friends along beautiful Ludwigstraße in Munich when a SA parade marched by. And who was the leader? None other than Bear. I recognized him immediately. All excited, I wrote home to my parents and told them whom I had seen marching, when all of us thought he was locked up in jail. When my father got the letter, he became furious and he threatened me with severe punishment if I would ever mention seeing Bear to anybody. That was enough for me. I learned to keep quiet. 30 years after that, father received a request from Mr. Strauss, that must have been your father, James, who had settled in New York. This had to do with Mr. Strauss's claim for Wiedergutmachen from the German government. But after all the information was provided, the new German courts refused to pay Mr. Strauss Gutmachung. They based their decision on the paper that my father's father signed, saying that he did not know how several pieces of metal came into Mr. Strauss's stomach. So it came back to be proof, even though it was alive. And my father says, because of Hitler, my whole life has consisted of lies. That's the end of this story. And as the mayor said, when something, because of the pogroms, there were always shadows. There was always more that was going to happen. In this case, it was the denial of Wiedergutmachung. And now, because of Netanel and the Matthias Knoch and many other people, there's another echo, and that's this conversation.
Thank you, Shula, for adding this postscript to my story, because I was not aware of any of this until I saw an advance of what you said earlier this week, and I was blown away. Thank you.
So as you said, thank you, Shula. As you said, it's like another wave of history that we are all part of. And it's also a question of us where do we want to take it? Thank you very much, Shula. I want to invite Mr. Matthias Knoch to say a few words. Matthias, please.
Thank you very much. I would ask Antje to translate, as I'm going to say the words in German. In Scham und Trauer.
In shame and agony, I say the following. The churches in Gunzenhausen, Protestant and Catholic churches, and the Foundation Henselshöhe, we put plates, attached plates to the churches in the year 2015, the 19th of November, the remembrance of the pogrom night, and it's written, in shame and agony, we remember the Jewish inhabitants of the city. 1933, there were 184 inhabitants, and 1939, this was the end of 500 years of Jewish community in Gunzenhausen. The 19th of November, 1938, the synagogue was demolished, or they took the Jewish homes. Jews were dispersed and murdered. And most Christians saw in them and didn't see their brothers and sisters in the Jews. We who take upon ourselves responsibility today, we ask for forgiveness. This is the Lutheran community and the Catholic community and the foundation. These are introductory words in shame and agony or despair. This is the beginning for the following. In shame and agony or despair, we German participants in this circle stand here. We German participants of Gunzenhausen, we are participating here and stand before you, stand with you. The family members of those who experienced terrible things done by our ancestors, and we ask you for forgiveness. We ask you for forgiveness. If you remember, when you remember, you feel pain. And often you remember without wanting to. The memory is there, remembrance is there. You dream and experience what has happened. You wake up and things that happened are there again. They are there, though you have been born later. What happens when you open your eyes and see a German? And if I open my ears and hear what has happened on Sunday in March 34, or if I open my eyes in Yad Vashem and I see what my ancestors had done, what happens? And when I meet a Jew, then shame, agony, despair explode, and I do not know who I am any longer. Things that happened takes away my access to my history, because those things which happened, I cannot just pass by, ignore them with empty hands. And with lost identity, we stand here, and I again ask you for forgiveness, not to forget. In shame, despair, and agony, I just ask for forgiveness. Wounds have to remain, but maybe between those ruins, a new tree can grow, a granite tree. To understand who I am, I'm looking, I'm searching at the Jewish roots of my so-called Christian belief, and I encounter a God, an Almighty, a Yeshayahu. I live in the heights, and with those who are in distress. Please help me to find this path, to go this path. And I greet in the name of somebody who initiated these plates, the Hartmut Kühne. He's Nathanael knows him. He is one of our pastors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matthias, for your touching words that come from the heart, and things that come from the heart are entering our hearts also. Maybe we have wounds, but your burden is also very heavy to carry this burden. And I think we will work together to do something with it. I want to finish this special ceremony with the Israel anthem. And then I'll say a few words at the end. Zion Sophia. Oh, Avda Tikvateinu, Tikva בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. I want to say a few words at the end. First, thank you very much to the mayor of Gunzenhausen, to the second mayor that really cooperated in all this project. And thank you for Emmy Hetzner for all her activities during the years. Thank you for all the German residents of Gunzenhausen or for other places in Germany that joined this special event, this ceremony. Thank you for all the Jewish descendants around the world. From this little community, 184 Jews in 1933. They are spread around the world, mainly in Israel, United States, in England, other places. Thank you for joining us. We have more ideas in the future to do some projects together. We have a dialogue group already running, meeting groups every 2 weeks. We have another thoughts about the cemetery, about other projects. Thank you very much for everyone to joining this evening ceremony. And by this, I finish the official part, and everyone can get off the Zoom screen. If anyone wants to stay, we can also spend some time to share some feelings or ideas and to use the space for that. For other, we'll have this all record and we'll put on YouTube to anyone who wants to share that. And this is the end of my part. Thank you very much. Good evening, good morning to the people of the United States. And let's be in touch.
Yasher koach, Nathaniel. Chag sameach to everybody.
Chag sameach also.
Thank you.
חג שמח לכולם, תודה רבה לכם.
חג שמח ממינכן, תודה רבה לכם, זה היה מאוד מאוד מרגש. תודה רבה לכולם, חג שמח.
חג
Okay, and
שמח.
thank you, of course, to interpreter that helped us to translation between German and English. Thank you very much. And
you know, our cousin Sui, who was here, I don't know if he's still here.
okay, Shula, personal things afterwards. Now we are a group together.
No, that's not what I mean. I just wanted to say he lives near Alaska.
Okay, so we have some people from Alaska. So it's open space. If anyone wants to say something, you can say, to introduce yourself, say a sentence or two. That's the time now.
Hello,
I'm Franca, yes, Franca from Berlin, say something.
Hi, I'm Franca from Berlin and grandfather from Gunzenhausen, and I'm really impressed how the city of Gunzenhausen is working on history. It's really such an example, because it's not everywhere in Germany that you have this really also very personal. And I already wrote to this little Zoom thing, Stadt Gunzenhausen, that it's wonderful how they get this together. I'm impressed, really. Thank you.
And I wanted to, Jimmy Strauss's wife, Ina, I wanted to thank especially Emmy Hetzner, who brought us to Gunzenhausen in 2015. It was a trip that really changed our whole lives. Jimmy and I, thankfully, have 3 children. We have 7 grandchildren. Jimmy's sister has a daughter with 3 children. So we feel very strongly that Jimmy's father and grandfather have a beautiful legacy. And we're grateful to Gunzenhausen and to you, Nathaniel, Shula, just beautifully put together, and thank you. And may we all have Yasher Koach in the years to come.
Anyone more wants to introduce himself, say a few words, how he share his feelings or thoughts? That's a space now. It's an open space.
You know, the ceremony was so beautiful. There's almost nothing to add, I think.
It's true.
I just would love to hear what Emmy thinks about what happened from the idea of starting with some school children.
Ja.
Can I say something?
Mein Enkel hat heute zugehört. Er ist 11.
My grandchild has listened to it.
Eva, can you open your camera so we'll see you?
It's open, but it's not coming through.
Okay.
I was very surprised at your speaker, who made such wonderful stories about how wonderful Germany is. As far as I'm concerned, I would have nothing whatever to do with Germany at any time, considering how the Jews were treated in the 1930s and 40s. And me and my family only got out in May 1939 by the skin of our teeth. And if you said to me, go to Germany, no way.
Okay, Eva is talking from England, and of course we understand your feelings. I can feel also part of this feeling is totally. Okay, there's a place for every experience, every feeling. Of course, we're not dealing with biscuits and sweets. We are dealing with very horrible things that happened, and each one takes it to the place he takes it. Okay, but of course, what you say is totally understandable.
Emmy, you were talking about your grandchild.
Emmy.
Ja. Leider hat keiner meiner Schüler.
Yes, I'm very sorry that none of my students listened. It's 4 in the afternoon. They are young and they're still working. But my grandchild listened, and I try now via my grandchildren to carry this story into the future. And this is a beautiful way of keeping continuity. And I think it is unique, the event which took place here. And we are grateful to Netanel. Thank you. This is due to you. Thank you very much. And it was marvelous. And thank you to all of you all over the world which have participated. A question to Eva, to England. What was your family? What, Eva? Eva, your family, you said your family left Germany? Eva from England, you just spoke. You don't, Eva? You just spoke. What was your family's name?
I'm Eva's cousin. I'm Eva's cousin from London. Our family name was Lehmann. And she is the daughter of my mother's older sister, Susie. My sister Hazel and I are the daughters of the younger sister, Ilse Lehmann.
Ilse. Yeah.
Ilse. And Eva is our first cousin. She lives in London and I also live in London.
Das einzige Mitglied ihrer Familie.
The only member of your family was Samuel Lehmann. Or Samuel Green, yes?
Samuel, yes.
He has visited Gunzenhausen. He was the only member of your family. Okay, that's
Hazel.
Yes, Hazel's my sister. And I understand Eva's feelings about Germany, but I personally would like to visit, as I'm very interested in my family history and I would like to see the town where my mother was born. So yeah, I don't share her feelings, but I understand them.
Yeah.
Eva was actually born in the White House where her mother lived after she got married. But I remember her telling me that on Kristallnacht, some shards of glass fell on the cot, and she feels very strongly. But I'm Samuel's mother. I would very much like to come. And as I said, it was the Lehmann family who were tenants of Max Rosenbaum, who lived in Strasse 7 and who witnessed the murder. Not sure. I don't thought it was. My mother always said their landlord was murdered in the apartment. So I don't know quite where your from. We're always given to understand that it was not suicide. Anyway, as I said, me and Carol, we're the granddaughters of Ernst and Julie Lehmann.
Von Ernst Lehmann, ja. Und Julie Lehmann.
Thank you very much, Emmy.
Ernst und Julie.
Ernst and Julie, right? Lehmann?
Yes.
Julie.
Yes, our grandparents. I never met them because they went to Argentina. They settled in Buenos Aires with their two sons, my uncles. I did invite my cousin Marcelo, who is the son of my uncle Poldi, who was also brought up in Argentina. He now lives in Mexico City. But I think the time difference, he might not have been able to, but I'll certainly see if he can catch up on YouTube. So that he can see. We've also got another cousin in LA, but he doesn't do technology, so I'm not sure if he'd be able to join in. But I'm certainly very keen to visit the town, and after the pandemic's over and we can travel again, I'd be very interested to visit.
Sehr gut, Sie sind herzlich eingeladen.
You are cordially invited. Hazel is coming too, right?
Yeah, maybe we'll come together if we can.
Ja.
I'd love to.
Netanel, es war niemand aus Argentinien dabei heute.
Nobody from Argentine has joined us today.
I know there are more than 80 people. I don't know which countries and which cities they are from, you know. But, I sent the email to all the list I had. I don't know personally the people, you know. I know some of them, just some of them. And yeah, thank you very much for your translation, you know. You are really you became part of the Gunzenhausen community in this event. Okay, anyone more?
Haben Sie auch wirklich sehr gut gemacht.
Yeah.
Wirklich, war angenehm zuzuhören. Ach. Ja. Mit den Rabbinern?
Mit dem.
Ah, so.
Und.
Ah, gut. Schön.
Netanel, please do this again next year.
Okay, write it in your diary next year at 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock Boston time.
Just a minute, I'll get on my e-calendar.
My diary is going like 2-3 weeks ahead, not a year.
I wish my father were alive.
Und James Strauss ist auch wieder dabei.
Maybe somewhere in the heaven he's also joining us this ceremony, you know. Our great-grandfather.
As the poet said, there's plenty of room in heaven.
Yeah. Thank you again, Netanel and Emmy and the government, the municipality. It was quite a moving experience. It really was something we learned so much about the entire situation in Gunzenhausen, because each family focused on what happened to their people, and for us descendants to have an opportunity to hear the whole story or a more complete story.
James, maybe you don't know this, or Jimmy,
Jimmy.
Apparently you're called.
Yeah.
That Bear, you
Yes.
know, he became the mayor.
No.
Absolutely, he was mayor for 5 years, I think.
I thought he died on the Eastern Front.
No, what's his name? What's his first name?
Bear.
Bear. He became mayor.
Okay.
Was?
We'll have to get our history work through.
Da muss ich mal nachlesen. Moment, wer ist von der Stadt Gunzenhausen noch dabei?
I have to read it. Are there still people from the city of Gunzenhausen? No, he has never ever been mayor. The Americans put after the war a different mayor. These have never been Nazis after the war.
I didn't say anything about the war.
When was he mayor? When was he mayor? After the war?
I think from 40 to 45.
40 to 45, da bin ich ja. Right?
Nein, das war Appelt.
No, this was Appelt. Appelt was
right.
the name.
You're right.
Appler.
You're right. He was just as bad.
No, but in the
He was
story,
a terrible Nazi.
Ab 35.
Natürlich,
in
aber
the
nicht so
story that
schlimm wie
That
Bär.
is true, but not as bad as Bear.
in the story that you read, the part you left out a line, I think, which said that he was Max wrote that he was killed on the Eastern Front in 1941. I don't know if that's accurate.
Kurt Bär, der den Mord gemacht hat. Der
You mean the Bear? The Bear was this Karl Bear was died. He was a soldier in the Eastern Front. He has never ever been a mayor. He belonged to the SR troops, and he was clerk finance in finance, and he was never ever a mayor. Münch was mayor. Bear died at the Eastern Front as a soldier. He has never ever been a mayor to Gunzenhausen.
I apologize, Entschuldigen.
It
was
no
Oppler.
No problem, madam.
I read about Oppler. He's terrible too.
Yes. Oppler war der Bürgermeister.
Leider.
Oppler came after Münch, who had in summer somebody had an appendix operation, died, and he was we became first mayor. And we see the first mayor, Münch. He was under tremendous pressure by SR, Bear, and Oppler. They put a tremendous pressure on them. And maybe that sheds another light on, well, a relative different light on Oppler. Who was the first mayor after the war? I cannot say it off the cuff. But he was appointed by the Americans, but I cannot remember his name. We have to look it up, who was the first mayor. The pictures are hanging somewhere in the office.
Have you ever had a female mayor?
Sorry?
Have you had a woman mayor?
No, not in Gunzenhausen.
Time.
Shula, maybe you will be the, maybe or you or Emmy. Think about it, you know.
Ja, ich bin zu alt. Ich bin zu alt, Bürgermeister.
I'm too old.
If you're old,
there's an age limit till 64.
Oh.
There's no city, for the city council, there's no age limit. I do not know if there's an age limit, but and the person he said he's also too old for the city council, and it's not a job for him anyways. Okay.
Dr. Raab, are you a doctor of medicine or law?
No, I was a dentist, but I'm retired now. I was a dentist in Gunzenhausen for more than 33 years, but I'm retired since 2018.
How is this ceremony for you? How do you feel about this subject, this story of Gunzenhausen Jewish community?
I think it is very important for us to know the whole story from both sides, from the German side and from the Jew side. For me, it is very important to have a correct meaning of history.
What does it mean from the German side?
What do you mean from the German side? Okay.
Very difficult question, I would say. The Germans, they have to remember all the things that happened, and the Germans have to learn from history.
And what should the Jews learn?
Oh, who can answer this question?
I think it would be a good topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in the group, I think in the group that's being established to talk for the next few months, every 2 weeks. That's the topic.
Ich schreib's auf.
Also, Frau Hetzner?
Ja.
Ich hätte noch was.
Ja.
Ich habe es jetzt raus. Der
Now,
eingesetzte Bürgermeister.
the mayor after 45 was Wilhelm Hahn. He was volunteering to be a mayor after 45, Wilhelm Hahn.
Was anybody?
But he had to leave out of health reasons. And Gottlieb Kraus was the vice mayor. Interesting.
Was anybody in Gunzenhausen ever
Der
punished?
nächste war der Gottlieb Kraus. Jetzt habe ich Sorry.
Was anybody in Gunzenhausen sent to jail?
Nach dem Krieg.
Nach dem Krieg.
Not the Greek, yeah.
You mean after the war?
For what they did, you know, like the Nuremberg trials.
Dr. Raab, wissen Sie besser.
Das kann ich jetzt nicht sicher sagen. Ich habe die Frage jetzt nicht verstanden. Ich habe jetzt nachgeguckt nach diesem Wilhelm Hahn und dann der nächste war der Kraus, der Gottlieb Kraus und der dritte, der war der Fritz Raab, mit mir aber nicht.
Kraus, Raab, but he is an in-law, but was somebody punished after the war? Many came, many people were sent to camps of denazification. All active Nazis were sent to those camps for years to denazification, and what their punishment was after that, I do not know. And I do not know either. We have to differentiate. There have been categories in Germany. Those who were the main perpetrators, those who were just followers, and those who were four or five categories they have, and there have been trials. The pogrom, after the war, the court dealt with the pogrom, and the mayor Appler, he was also put into a camp, but I do not know further details off the cuff. I have to look it up.
I think it's very interesting.
I know that there have been little companies, and there have been courts sitting on different cases, how people were treated, and then we had this area where everybody declared his neighbor as a good neighbor, where every German declared the other one as non-guilty, basically. And only after a certain period of time has passed, we worked on it, truly worked on it. People only started, it was not possible in the 50s and 60s. It was too fresh, and it was, people wrote a communicative history. We have to differentiate between the collective memory and the communicative memory, and the time witnesses have been very involved, and people do not like to take a position, and I experienced it also. You had the right timing, and you could you had fundamental achievements. Yes, we were lucky. We had still time witnesses, and they like to talk to us, but my first year was 1999, and my students, when they came back from the city after they did their research, that old people spoke to them and said, now you start again, leave it alone, let those things pass. That was only the first year. Either they died, all of them, or they changed their opinion. They were all of age, yes. What? Pardon?
I should mention that in 1934, immediately after the incident at the inn on Bloody Palm Sunday, there was a trial, and I've seen testimony in the last few years my father gave, which resulted in the conviction of Kurt Baer. This was in June of 1934. He was in prison briefly, got out, could be seen on the street in Munich, but besides that, but he went back to the inn and did a retaliatory shooting of my grandfather.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, but I didn't know the story after that, that he then there was another trial, which he was convicted, but that the factions within the National Socialists were changing by
yes.
in 1934 between the black shirts and the brown shirts. I'm very confused.
Das verwirrt mich alle.
Quite get it straight. So I just wanted to add that, but this was nothing to do with after the war. I never even thought about that.
My father went to Germany a few times after the war. The first time was in 1946. And he went to Gunzenhausen. He went to Gunzenhausen in order to kill a Nazi. And when he got there, he couldn't do it. And he left. But my father also said he couldn't find anybody who said he was a Nazi, ever. And he writes in his diary, it's amazing. There was so much resistance in Germany. There were hardly any Nazis. So I don't know how it sounds today. If people say, yes, my grandfather was a Nazi, if people say those things, or everyone says, not me. Because, you know, when Netanel created all of this, it was to be with people who live in Gunzenhausen now and the descendants of the Jews who used to live in Gunzenhausen. But it's not between Nazis and Jews. Do you know what I mean? So if we talk to the people who live in Gunzenhausen now, do you think they would talk about the Nazis in their families?
Frau Hetzner vielleicht Sie.
Vielleicht.
Yeah, maybe I think, yeah. But Emmy Hetzner could probably give a better answer than I.
Ja, es gibt einige, die stehen sehr offen.
Yes, there are some who openly say so. Mr. Fahler, who was a musician with his children, this family says it out loud that the grandfather has been on the sides of the Nazi, and this family tries to work with it and deal with it, and it's very impressive. And also his cousin Strauss, she says, yes, you know her. The cousin which visited you, James Strauss, made the cousin Ina.
Ina's my wife.
Yes, yeah, Emmy, that's right. I was going to say that you put us in touch with the granddaughter of one of the Nazis who was at the inn the day that Jimmy's father was shot and his grandfather was killed.
Und heute der Musiker mit seinen Kindern.
And the musician he's the cousin.
The cousin, and she came to New York because she was doing research. She's a scholar. She was doing research about this period in Gunzenhausen because it was her grandfather who was part of the brown shirts, I guess. And she was very interested to hear from Jimmy's point of view what happened that day at the inn, because she knew that her grandfather was a Nazi sympathizer. She said her mother, his daughter, was always very angry at him. They all knew. And we were grateful, Emmy, that you put her in touch with us, because it gave us a face of a new German who really understood what the history was and how it had impacted the Strauss family.
She actually was afraid to meet with us she was very cautious about it. I mean, she wanted to, but she felt, maybe we would reject. I mean, that's not the way I was brought up and the way I think. So, of course, we were more than happy. And that was done with Jim Bauer and his wife as well when we met her in Manhattan.
And Emmy knows that we were very warmly received by Joseph, the grandson of the new owners of what was the Strauss Inn. I forget his last name.
Arnold.
Arnold.
Joseph Arnold.
Joseph Arnold. He greeted us so warmly. He invited us to the inn. We actually slept in the Strauss Inn one night when we were in Gunzenhausen in what had been the Strauss Inn. 2 nights, yeah. And that was actually a wonderful feeling. And Emmy, again, we thank you for that because you introduced us to Joseph Arnold. I hope he's well. He had a beautiful baby at the time. That baby must be now 5 or 6 years old. Yeah.
Ja, der hatte damals. Ja.
If the pandemic ever ends and I can get my 3 children and some grandchildren together, I hope to return to the town as a family trip.
It would be so interesting, Emmy, if somebody from the Fowler family could talk to us. Maybe be part of the discussion group. I don't know. But we don't have that.
Welche Familien?
Was?
Welche Familien meinst du?
Families, do you mean?
The Fowler family. Isn't that what
yeah.
Because we have not heard that voice, that kind of voice from Gunzenhausen.
Ja, das glaube ich. Das stimmt. Ja, also ich kenne jetzt vor allem diese Familie Pfahler, die das ganz hervorragend
True, I know mainly this family Fallow who does a marvelous job. I do not know of anybody else. Do you know some, Dr. Raab? It's difficult because there is not only this Nazi or the anti-Nazi, it is a huge mass, and it's very difficult to attribute the blame. And there many people left the city after 45. Germans have left the city? At least people who have been very active in the party. Also due to the fact, you have to see it this way. People who have been close to the Nazis, who had high jobs, I know about certain families, certain professions where they were not allowed to work in them. People tried to denazify Germany, and children had difficulties to study, go to school. I did not quite research it, but it was some informations I have, and people left the city due to this. But I cannot give you names. There's not enough research on this topic. Yes, we did not do enough on that topic. Shula, but I'll take care of it. I will, when you come and visit us, maybe there are 2 others from this family or other families willing to meet you and talk about it. It would be interesting.
I don't want to express anger. I don't want to punish. I want to just hear, learn. Klar.
Ja.
Okay, I think I'm going to say goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen.
Ja, ich auch. Es war sehr schön mit euch allen.
It has been marvelous with all of you. We have got lots of information, and there was an attempt to do it online, and this was a huge success. And I think we should do it with a big public. It's so much more. And if I understood you, this will be on YouTube. But somehow I heard somebody said this will be streamed and also be shown on YouTube. And maybe we find people in Gunzenhausen who are willing to watch it. Nathaniel, you
Yeah, yeah.
recorded the
I
whole
will put
meeting,
it,
right?
I will put it on YouTube soon, in the next, maybe today or tomorrow. It will be already on YouTube, and I'll send you all a link through email or through. I'll send you all links for this, and maybe someone will edit also. We have to take all this 2 hours, almost 2 hours, and edit that, but it will be all on YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's
Good
great.
idea.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Okay,
Sameach.
להתראות, חג שמח.
חג שמח, שולה,
Wiedersehen.
טוב,
Alles
חג
Gute,
שמח,
frohe
פסח
Ostern.
שמח,
Auf
שולה.
Wiedersehen.
Tschüss.
Hi, Libby.
Bye.
Okay, danke schön.
Hello,
תודה
Carol.
רבה.
Regards to England.
You're welcome.
אל תצאי משום מקום. אני פה.
Good. Goodbye, Nathaniel.
Bye bye, Matthias. We'll be in touch. See you next week.
Very good. Goodbye.
זה שם השני שלה. אוקיי, ביי ביי.
חג שמח.
חג שמח. What's your name? The wife of
Aina,
Jane.
Aina.
Aina.
ענת בעברית.
ענת.
This was terrific, really. יוצא מן הכלל.
Shoshana is with us. סוזי שושנה. אמא, איפה את? לא שומעים אותך. איפה את בכלל? איפה את נמצאת? לא מקרר. לא שומעים אותך, אמא, לא שומעים אותך. Hello, James. Thank you for your part.
Thank you. I was so surprised with the pictures. I had no idea you were so talented technically, because I'm not.
Clearly, it went perfectly.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Have a good Passover. Pesach.
חג שמח.
חג שמח. ביי ביי.
Bye.